So Pitch Perfect, different kind of experience to filming Bridesmaids because you're on the schedule the whole time. There's a phrase for that, isn't there?
It's called like run of picture.
Run of picture, that's
that
right.
means when you might not film every single day, but you kind of film across
You
the
get
whole
to be
thing.
there.
Yeah, and it takes about 2 months to
Right,
film
and
a
that's
comedy
different.
movie.
It's a different experience. You're one of the stars of the film. Different trailer situation. Yeah, what was that? What was all
I think
that like?
I went from like a quarter trailer to what's called like a half banger, which means you have that's the industry term. I don't mean anything rude by it. It means you get half of those big trailers to yourself. When you're like The Rock, whatever, you get the whole trailer.
When did you get
yourself.
your first banger, your full banger?
Oh, full banger. It was probably Isn't It Romantic?
Right.
My movie where I was the lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also called number one on the call sheet.
Yeah, and at the bottom of the contract, this is like a 97-page contract. There's all this, that, and the other, and then right before you sign, it says, "And the full banger."
Yeah.
And you go, "Yep, that's the one for me.
Yeah,
I'm a full
but
banger
sometimes
girl
they have
now."
like a 1/6 banger.
No, you don't want that. You don't want the
If you're
1/6
really, if you're like Viking number 2 in a scene,
you know,
get
it's
the 1/6.
it's a rung on the
trailer.
right ladder, but it's not the rung you want to be on.
Yeah.
So then you get a Pitch Perfect 2, obviously gangbusters, huge franchise, and then there's the dastardly goings on of the movie industry and Pitch Perfect 3. Well, guess who won in the end, everybody? Over to you.
So what do you mean about?
Because
Pitch Perfect 2 was the highest grossing musical comedy of all time.
Correct.
And then I don't know, I guess a lot of people wanted to put their hands in it.
Yeah.
And so Pitch Perfect 3 maybe, got a bit muddled or something.
Well, didn't they sort of underwrite the future of the franchise with a younger cast?
Oh, yes. Okay. So basically, at the end of Pitch Perfect 2, they told us OG Bellas, you know what? We think you're too old. You're not going to be coming back for the third movie.
Also becoming a bit too expensive.
Yeah, and maybe you're cost too much now. So you know what? This new lovely actress Hailey Steinfeld, who joined us in the second movie, she's going to take over the franchise. And you older girls now, we won't be needing you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And they literally said that to us.
Pitch off.
As we were filming the end of Pitch Perfect 2, and made us film a scene where we hand the reins of the franchise basically over to young Hailey, who is the most gorgeous girl.
Great.
So nothing
to do with
against
her, however.
nothing against Hailey. She was not part of this. So anyway, we do that. And then, surprise, surprise, flash forward, Pitch Perfect 2 becomes the highest grossing musical comedy of all time. At which I thought, that's interesting. Would they really get rid of us? Turns out they were doing like these focus groups, and my housekeeper's niece in Los Angeles, went in, and executives from Universal were like, who would you definitely want to see back in Pitch Perfect 3? And Fat Amy ranked like really high. So I thought, as a lawyer, this is leverage. This is what you call leverage. And they, like the younger people that came in for the second movie, they signed up for a 3-picture deal. They didn't. And so we could basically ask for whatever we wanted.
And it's in the book. The figure's in the book.
Yeah, I know.
Shall we drum roll? Let's get a drum roll, Jane. On your birthday, Jane. Here we go. Drum roll, and let's get the 1812 overture. So, what did you sign for?
So that was, my biggest deal of my career, and it was $10 million US.
$10 million US dollars. Come on.
Storm or something.
I mean, hello.
But I don't say that to brag, because there are many male movie stars that you hear about that are very openly, they get 20 million for pictures or more.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying it for that. I'm saying it's like a win. It was, girl power, and it was just, utilising.
You don't have to
my
apologise
law
for
degree.
it. Because I've never been shy to talk about money, and some people think it's vulgar, but because I come from a council house.
I noticed in the UK, some people do think it's vulgar to talk about it.
I think without generalising, for me, because I was thinking about you, I was so relieved that you were talking about the deals, and I don't find it crass at all. I find it really interesting and really inspiring as well, and also educational, informative, instructive, all those different things. And I was thinking about last night. I think if you came from no money, you don't mind talking about money. It's if you come from money, for some reason, sometimes, not all people do, sometimes some people do. And I just found it very refreshing.
Yeah, because I guess people thought, well, why do these actors going on strike last year? It's because they don't realise that like 98% or something earn below minimum wage.
More, and
as an actor. And then me starting on Pitch Perfect 1 was the union's minimum for Pitch Perfect 1. So to go from that and then to go to $10 million for Pitch Perfect 3 was something that I was really proud of and that I worked hard to get.
And you've always worked really, really hard because one of the things I think I'm blessed with, and I'm blessed with many, many things, and I finally, now I realise
Look at this view, Chris.
I know. Made all the better for you being framed right in the middle of it.
London Bridge behind me.
Come
it's
on,
awesome.
Rebel. Come on. But I was blessed with the work ethic. I love working.
Yeah,
and it doesn't
me too.
matter.
Are you a workaholic?
Not a workaholic, but I'm a fan of work.
Yeah.
I'm a lifeaholic. And, when I'm doing things that I love, which fortunately I get to do. But I've always just loved working. I used to fit car windscreens. I loved it. You've had loads of jobs, haven't you?
Yeah, I just always knew that if I wanted money, I had to earn it myself.
Yeah.
And so I come from a dog showing family. So even from the early days, I know it's weird. Now you know. Yeah, we had a company called Petcetera, etc., which was a little yellow caravan that we'd drag around to all the different dog shows in Australia. And we'd sell, glamorous things like pooper scoopers, dog leads, dog brushes, flea bombs if your dogs had fleas. So that was the upbringing. And then I started side businesses from as young as I can remember.
Side hustles.
And I wasn't just going to sit there at the dog shows. And so I would reach into the rubbish bins, collect up the soft drink cans and recycle them to make money.
And then other kids copied your jam, didn't they?
Yeah. And so then I moved on and had a store selling sweets at the dog shows. And I've just always had this drive. I don't think I can ever get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it just comes from having humble beginnings.
It is a true blessing.
Yeah, I really like it. And I once dated somebody, which is in the book, who had never worked a day in his life. And I found that so odd.
Was this the Malibu guy?
No. Jacob, my ex, who came from a very wealthy family.
Yeah.
And I could not relate to that. To never working, ever.
Well, I love it. It's part of life. It's always been part of life. And our first holiday to France, we went on a coach because we couldn't afford to go on a plane. Tough, like forever. We might as well go to Australia. Literally walking to Australia. When as a kid, it seemed like to take us that long. And we were staying at a campsite. And we found out that there was a posh sort of 24-hour store, posher, that sold these bottles of fizzy drink, Orangina it was, and there was a deposit on the bottle. And there was another shop around the corner, a bit further down from the campsite, which sold the same ones, but for so much less. And we figured out that if we bought our fizzy drinks from the first shop and returned the bottles to the second shop, we would be getting paid for drinking fizzy drinks, which is what we did. So there's a lot of this stuff going on.
Yeah, see, it's a very entrepreneurial spirit that you had. And I definitely had that. And I am really proud of that.
You still have it.
And I hope now with my gorgeous daughter that I do pass that on to her.
Yeah, well, you will, because it's either in you or it's not, and it's difficult, obviously, because now you are of a certain status financially, but it's still within. She will see it. It's called teaching from behind. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's how you are, all those kind of things. You know all this. And you're producing now. You've been writing screenplays for years and years and years. You've been making your own stuff for years and years, and you talk about getting decent sized checks. But even when they weren't that big, you were always really good to your family. So there was a $90,000 deal you did just before you left for Australia.
So this was like when I became professional.
Yeah.
So I only became a professional actress at 23.
Yeah.
And I got this $90,000 check for a commercial from a lovely casting agent who I just used as my casting agent for the movie I just directed because I always remembered her. And so I suddenly, I was at college, I had all this debt, and then suddenly I get given $90,000. So I pay off my credit card debt that I was drowning in.
Well done.
And then I go, and the lady at the bank goes, "Did you win the lottery?" I went, "Yes." And then I take my family on an around-the-world trip because my mum was a single mum at that point with 4 kids. I couldn't afford to take us anywhere. And so I just go, all right, I'm spending $35,000 of that money on an around-the-world trip for my family. Although we still did what I call bogan things, which is like all of us, 5 of us, shared like one hotel room in New York because the New York hotel rooms are expensive.
See, again, savvy.
Yeah.
But you're putting joy first. So once practicality is sorted to some extent and the essentials are covered to some extent, why not just fast forward joy to next place in the queue? From 90 grand, spending $35,000 on your family, so cool. And then when you make your bigger bucks, again, you buy a place in New York and you sort of open the book. The first chapter of the book is brilliant. It reads like the first 5 minutes of an amazing screenplay called Rebel Wilson. It's so fantastic. It's about you wanting to be a mum, but also you do mention your 2 houses because you're Rebel 2 houses now, aren't you?
I mean, I'm really into property. I used to love that game Monopoly.
Yeah.
And so now
for real.
I like to.
But in Hollywood, or in LA, you have 2 houses.
Yes.
One to keep things in.
Yeah. This is going to make me sound like such a wanker.
It doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. So the first chapter is really just like a morning of my life, and I'm 39, driving around Hollywood in my G-Wagon.
The G-Wagon gets a lot of mentions.
Yeah, which I then get pulled over by the cops for. And I still have that G-Wagon. I love it. It's like it's a tank. And so I go to a fertility doctor and thinking, I want to start a family, but at that point I'm 39, I'm single, I'm very overweight, and he tells me that I have to get healthier if I want a chance at that, and that just really hits me. And then that same morning I'm hit with the other dilemma because my Hollywood team says, well, if you lose weight, you might probably also lose your whole career. Because people like you being the fat, funny girl. So what do you want to do? And that was a very interesting morning.
Yeah, full of revelations there. But back to the 2 houses, if you don't mind.
Okay.
You have memorabilia in the second. It's the office house, isn't it?
Only in my office house.
The office house.
I think it's too much to have pictures of yourself.
What kind of stuff do you have in there?
Like all my movie posters.
So cool. Ones you were in and ones you bought because you love movies.
Well, they're actually all the ones I'm in.
Didn't you buy one in auction at the end of a theatre run or something?
Yes. So the very first musical I saw was 42nd Street. Yeah. Basically because our dog had auditioned for the musical, didn't get it, but my mum was like, I really want to see what dog did make it. So we went and saw this musical, and that was the very first time at 14 I saw it. So I bought the marquee, the big poster from out the front of the theatre when the theatre closed down.
So cool.
But I have weird stuff. Like I have my hat from Night at the Museum 3. I have like wigs that I've worn or things on display. I just like keeping things. The movie slates
from the camera department. It's your dream, man.
Yeah.
It's cool. Virgin Radio.